So we're going to go over the leveling system for your actual vehicle. Now, leveling is kind of a tricky term to be used. It's technically a leveling system when you are within a 3 degree of level. If you are beyond that 3 degree of level, which, how do you know? You may not. It's hard to know. You will not use the auto level button. If you do use the auto level button in a situation where you're parked on a hill or a slight incline, what will actually happen is it will start to lift the vehicle off the ground, which is extremely dangerous. Now, that parking brake that we set earlier ties into the rear tires. So if our downhill was towards the rear, it will lift the rear up off the ground until the tires are not touching. And what will happen is the vehicle is now on 2 front free spinning tires and basically a set of skis from the jacks that you just put down. So anytime that you're parked on an incline of more than 3 degrees, you're going to use these little arrows, which are for manual leveling. Now, there's a couple little things before we get started in this that I want to point out. One, there is the warning, lower suspension before leveling. So as we went over earlier, you need to make sure that you dump the air suspension before trying to use the system. 2, make sure you're clear all the way around. 3, the vehicle should be running, preferably at a fast idle. This uses a lot of volts, a lot of amps. If you run it without the key in the ignition and on, what will typically happen is that the vehicle will drain the batteries and you will get a basically slow retract or extend of the jacks, and it may actually trip the breaker for the actual system. Now, this little switch, little light here that's not lit up, not in park brake, actually can't really do anything because your park brake is set every time. The excess slope right here is obviously not on, but if you try to run the jacks down and you have an extreme slope, a little red light will come on. You may only get 3 jacks to extend and the 4th one may not go down and the little red light will come on. That means you should have put the vehicle in a better position or use the actual manual level. If you try the auto level and that light comes on, like I said, it's kind of dangerous. You want to make sure that all your jacks are on the ground. So first things first, I'm going to start the vehicle. So I'm going to turn the key until all the little lights on the dash go away. Takes a couple seconds. I'm going to start the vehicle. It's running at about 700 RPMs, indicating I need to put it in fast idle. So I'm going to turn my cruise control on. My RPMs are now at about 1,000 RPMs, so we're now running at a nice fast idle. I'm going to dump my air suspension, so make sure you're clear before doing so. Wait until you can no longer hear any air dumping out of the system before you do the next step. So it takes a couple seconds, and we are now bottomed out. You saw before I pushed the dump switch that there were little yellow lights on at the front and the left-hand side. At these 4 sides here, those little yellow lights are basically just a bubble level. So if they are still on at the end of a setup, don't panic. It just means you're a tiny bit out of level. And when you're using manual mode, you're never trying to get those little yellow lights to go away, especially when you're on a steep incline. If you try to make them go away, a lot of times you'll lift the tires off the ground. So in a flat situation, which we are in right now, there's an auto level button. I'm now going to press that. The blue blinking lights indicates that the system is now functioning and running. You can now hear we have a horrible beeping noise, a horrible piezo buzzer, and a little red light just came on that says jacks deployed. On the actual jack control panel, you'll see little red lights coming on right now. Those little red lights indicate which jacks are currently deploying. Never turn the system off until the little blue blinking light has stopped. And when the system is done leveling, the little blue blinking light should stop on its own. So in a couple seconds, the little blue light should go out. Depending on how cold it is outside, depending on what kind of level position you are in, depends on how long this system will take to run. If it's extremely cold outside, it may take a couple couple more minutes because the fluid inside this is basically synthetic automatic transmission fluid, and it's trying to move that thick fluid throughout the lines. You can see the blue light has gone out. At this point, we can actually get out, physically make sure that all 4 jacks are on the ground, and make sure all 4 tires are still on the ground. If they are, at this point you can turn the key off. The jacks are down, the vehicle is technically leveled. Now there's another way to do the leveling process, which is manual mode, and it's the easiest way to do it. I typically tell customers this is the way I prefer that you do this. That way there is no risk at all of you lifting the tires off the ground or causing damage to the vehicle when you are actually on a hill. So to bring all the jacks back up, this works in manual mode or auto mode. Just push the auto store button. The blue blinking light once again indicates that the jacks are going up and the system is working. All my little red lights disappeared. The red light on the dash disappeared and the warning went off. I now have the green light that says travel mode on. This typically means that I can now reinflate my airbags and drive the vehicle. But before you ever do so, physically get out and make sure that all the jacks have actually retracted. Those jacks tied to the frame. If you try to drive the vehicle away and the jacks are down, you can technically total the vehicle just by catching a curb or anything like that. Just because the jack was down, the light wasn't on, and the other light was not on as well, which is extremely dangerous. So actually get out and physically use your eyes and make sure the jacks have fully retracted. Now manual mode. Manual mode is the easiest way to do the jack system. It's the safest way, and it's as simple as this. You have arrows located on your left, right, front, and rear. They clearly state that pushing the up arrow extends the jack, pushing the down arrow retracts the jack. Do not confuse the arrows as to which way the jacks are actually going. The up is not bringing the jacks up, it's extending the jacks. So go off the wording if you're using the manual mode. Don't go off which way the arrow is positioned. If you review the HWH owner's manual, it will tell you to typically start with your left or right side and then do the front or rear. So it's as simple as this. If I want to stabilize the vehicle, I don't want to level it, which you will always stabilize the vehicle when you are parked on a hill. You will just push the extend arrow starting left or right first until you feel the jacks touch the ground and until they're both touching the ground and someone tells you. So if you have a spotter, have them tell you the jacks are on the ground, or use your mirrors and watch the vehicle and see how it is actually raising, and it will tell you if the jacks are down. So the easiest thing, I'm going to press and hold extend on the left side. 2 little red lights came on indicating that the left hand side is coming down. I'm going to use my mirror right now, find a plane on the ground, and feel and look to tell when the jacks are actually touching. So there's 1 and 2. You can feel 2 indistinct touchdowns. I'm going to push the extend on the right side. They are now both touching. Now, in this instance, we don't have any little yellow lights on. Once again, if they are on, don't panic. They're just indicating that you're leaning one way. But if you are on a hill, there's nothing you can do about that. The only thing you can do, you can slightly adjust the level of the vehicle. If you're leaning extremely far to the left, press the extend a little bit more, and it will start to raise that side of the vehicle a tiny bit. Don't go overboard with extending the jacks. If you extend them too far, you're technically stroking the jacks out. You can lift the tires off the ground. It's extremely dangerous. It's extremely bad for the system. So if you have little yellow lights on, it's not a bad thing. So even in manual mode at this point, I'm technically level, even if I had a yellow light on. What you need to do is you need to go outside, physically make sure that all your jacks are on the ground, and then none of the tires are off the ground. Now, if the tires were off the ground, let's say you used auto mode or you use manual mode, just use the retract buttons on the side that you need to bring the tires back down to bring them back down to the ground. So let's say my right hand side was off the ground, push the retract a little bit, just press and hold it for about a second, and it will drop in about 1/2 inch increments until the tire touches the ground again. So you can do that either way, front, rear. It's pretty straightforward. Now, once again, you must have these down to do things like use the lift in the rear of the vehicle. So make sure that you dump the air and do your leveling jacks before doing so. I'm going to turn the key off and I'm going to pause the video.